When I was 22, I thought my life was finally about to straighten out. I had landed a job at a small auto shop in town, the kind of place that smelled of grease and gasoline the moment you walked through the door. The clinking of wrenches, the hiss of air compressors, the steady hum of engines being tested. It was noisy, chaotic, and yet I loved it. Cars had always fascinated me, and I figured this was my shot to learn, to grow, and maybe even carve out a stable career for myself. The crew at the shop was friendly enough when I started. Most of them were older than me, seasoned mechanics who had been doing this for years. They cracked jokes, helped me when I was stuck, and made me feel like part of the team. For a while, things were good, but then everything changed when our new supervisor walked in. Let's call him C. From the moment he arrived, C radiated arrogance. He wasn't particularly skilled or knowledgeable, at least, not more than the others, but he carried himself like he was the smartest guy in the room. He strutted around the shop with his chest puffed out, barking orders like a drill sergeant, and it was obvious he enjoyed putting people down. He'd hover over someone's shoulder while they worked, waiting for the smallest mistake just so he could pounce. If a customer had a question, he'd roll his eyes dramatically and snap at them for wasting his time. He treated everyone like they were beneath him. I tried at first to stay out of his way. I was young, low on the ladder, and I needed the paycheck more than anything. Rent was due every month whether I liked my boss or not, and groceries didn't buy themselves. So I swallowed my pride and told myself to endure it. But things escalated quickly. My first real red flag came on payday. I remember walking up to the counter where the stack of envelopes was laid out, the smell of coffee lingering in the air as everyone else grabbed theirs. When I picked mine up, my stomach dropped. It was empty. I asked C about it, and he gave me this casual shrug like it was nothing. "It'll get sorted next week," he said before turning his back on me. Next week came. No paycheck. Then the week after that, nothing again. I was 2 paychecks short, and when I pressed him, he smirked. "You can complain if you want, but good luck finding another job right now. Shops aren't hiring." His voice dripped with smugness, like he was daring me to challenge him. My chest felt tight, my face burning with humiliation. I wanted to yell at him, to demand my money, but fear held me back. If I lost this job, I didn't know how I'd make rent. I tried to bury the anger. But then I overheard something that turned my quiet frustration into a fire I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, while wiping down tools, I caught C talking to another mechanic. He was bragging, literally bragging, about rolling back odometers on used cars. He laughed about faking titles and making shady deals with customers who didn't know any better. He joked about how easy it was to cheat people and pocket extra money. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a rude boss anymore. This was someone actively stealing, lying, and hurting people. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my fists clenching every time I thought about him smirking at me, withholding my pay and ripping off innocent customers. My chest burned with anger, but beneath that I felt something else, resolve. If I didn't stand up to him, who would? So I began quietly collecting evidence. At first it was just mental notes, but soon I realized I needed more. I started saving receipts, making copies of altered paperwork, documenting everything suspicious I saw. I became hyper-aware, watching his every move. When he'd leave the office, I'd quickly snap pictures of shady titles or fake bills. My heart would pound in my chest every time, terrified he might walk back in and catch me. But the thought of my missing paychecks fueled me. Every piece of evidence I collected was like reclaiming a little bit of power. 3 months went by like this. By then I had a thick folder full of evidence. Fake bills, odometer rollbacks, customer complaints, you name it. I kept it hidden away like treasure, though in truth it felt more like dynamite. Then one day he blindsided me. He called me into the office, leaned back in his chair with that smug look on his face, and said, "You're done here. Pack up your stuff." No explanation, no severance, no final paycheck. Just like that, I was out. I walked out of that shop with my hands trembling. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to punch a wall. I had never felt so powerless. But then my mind flashed to that folder sitting at home, and my fear began to shift into something else, determination. I knew the owner of the shop wasn't like C. He was a decent man, the kind who would drop by every so often with pizzas for the crew or snacks just to boost morale. He wasn't there often since his main office was elsewhere, but he genuinely seemed to care about the business and the people in it. I was certain he had no idea what C was doing, so I decided to take my evidence straight to him. The day I walked into his office, my palms were slick with sweat. I laid the folder on his desk and said, "Sir, you need to see this." He opened it, flipping through the neatly organized papers, his face growing darker with every page. I told him everything, how C had treated the staff, the customers, how he had withheld my pay, and how he bragged about ripping people off.
My voice shook at times, but I didn't hold back. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You'll get your job back. I just need time to investigate this myself." The next 2 weeks were torture. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if he believed me, if C would find out, if I'd get blacklisted from shops in town. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was the owner. His voice was calm but firm. "Come down to the shop," he said. "We're going to handle this." When I arrived, the atmosphere was tense. The owner stormed in, flanked by 2 men who looked more like bouncers than mechanics. The air felt heavy, the clatter of tools stopping as everyone looked up. C was at the counter, mid-conversation, when he froze. Confusion flickered across his face. The owner's voice was like thunder. "Enough." What followed was a dressing down I'll never forget. The owner tore into C in front of everyone, laying out each piece of wrongdoing like a prosecutor in court. He quoted angry customers he'd spoken to, cross-referenced their stories with my evidence, and made it clear that C's days of manipulating and scamming people were over. By the time he was finished, C's face was ashen, beads of sweat rolling down his temples. His smugness had evaporated. One of the men grabbed him by the collar, dragged him across the shop, and tossed him out the front door. He stumbled on the sidewalk, looking utterly defeated, like a dog with its tail between its legs. The silence that followed was surreal. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, people began to smile. A coworker chuckled. Another clapped me on the back and said, "Man, you just saved this place." The tension that had been choking us for months lifted in an instant. The shop felt lighter, freer. The very next week, one of my coworkers was promoted to supervisor, and he turned out to be everything C wasn't: supportive, fair, and respectful. The customers noticed too. They started coming back, praising the friendlier atmosphere. Work became something we could actually enjoy again. Years later, we still laugh about that day, about the sight of C being hauled out of the shop, his pride in pieces. For me, though, it was more than just a funny story. It was proof that standing up for yourself, even when you feel powerless, can lead to justice. It taught me one of the most important lessons of my life: do no harm, but take no shit.